I signed the power of attorney at the notary 2 days before my heart valve surgery. "Just a formality, Dad," Evan said. "We'll handle errands so you can focus on recovery." Tessa, my daughter-in-law, smiled and squeezed my arm. The notary read quickly. Broad authority, banking, property, loan applications, and slid the pages across. I signed where he pointed. I even initialed a half-blank sheet he said they'd fill in later with the file number. I was tired, scared of the operation, and I trusted my son. That was the whole equation. The surgery went well. Months passed. Evan said his small logistics company was opening a credit line and that he'd co-sign everything so I wouldn't be on the hook. A white SUV appeared in their driveway. "Client visits," he said. Tessa talked about redoing their kitchen. I tried to learn my pill schedule and not make a fuss when bank envelopes arrived, and Evan whisked them into my desk to file. 2 winters later, the doorbell rang at 8 a.m. 2 officers stood on the step with a court officer behind them. "Mr. Walter Pierce?" "Yes. We have an order to inventory assets securing unpaid loans." The words blurred. "There's a mistake," Evan said, pale. "We'll sort it out at the bank." At the branch, the manager, Ms. Patel, clicked through a file. My signature stared back from loan forms, guarantees, collateral addendums. "You authorized these," she said. "I didn't," I whispered. Evan leaned in. "Dad, you did, remember? You were recovering. We talked about it." Something in me cracked. The investigation felt like a slide you can't stop once you've stepped onto it. A consultant swore under oath I'd approved everything. Funds had passed through my account for 3 hours at a time before being transferred to Pierce Logistics as a repayment. The prosecutor called it a pattern. The judge called it fraud. When the sentence came, 5 years, I looked for Evan's eyes. He looked at the floor. Prison reduced my world to a bed, a metal locker, and the sound of gates. I kept a small notebook and wrote dates. The notary appointment, the surgery, the day the court letters came. One night, tracing lines between pages, I noticed something I hadn't let myself see. One notarized document was stamped on a public holiday. Notaries don't keep holiday hours. I folded that page like it was heat in my hands. 6 months in, I saw a flyer in the library. Wrongful conviction review. Free case screening. I wrote. 3 weeks later, a short woman with a steady voice sat across the glass. "I'm Nora Whitman," she said. "I read your file. I can't promise outcomes, but I see 2 problems. A holiday date stamp and 2 independent appraisals that appear to be the same photocopy with different dates." The first breath I'd taken in months filled my chest. "What do you need?" "Everything," she said. Chronology, letters, bank mail. We'll look for what doesn't fit. The next month she brought someone else. Caleb Mason, a former bank operations officer who'd survived 2 restructurings and a moral crisis. He examined the file with a jeweler's attention. "This delivery receipt shows 2 times, lunch and after hours, with the same signature from a manager who was on paid leave that day," he said, sliding out a laminated staffing calendar. "That's not sloppy. It's patched. I was paroled for good behavior in my 3rd year. The first thing I did at home was change the locks. The second was follow Nora to the courthouse to file for a new trial. Our motion listed 3 anchors: the holiday notarization, the carbon copy appraisals, and branch signatures by a manager who was off the schedule. The judge skimmed, frowned, and said we'd take testimony. It was not a victory, but it wasn't a dismissal either. It felt like ground. Evan called. "Dad, can we meet?" We sat in a diner where the coffee tasted like last night. Tessa joined, polite eyes, tight smile. "Those days were impossible," Evan started. "The company was burning. The banker suggested using the POA. I panicked." "We were trying to protect you," Tessa added. "Keep the house safe. Pay off debt. Stabilize things." The word protect sat in my throat like a stone. I'd brought a small voice recorder and set it beside my phone so I wouldn't forget what was said later. "Did you fill in that blank signature page?" I asked. Evan looked out the window. "If I answer that, it doesn't help." "How well did you know the consultant?" "Everyone uses him," Tessa said. "He gets things done." When the check came, Evan stood too quickly. "Don't destroy me, Dad." "No one will hire me 5 years," I said quietly. "We're already destroyed. What's left is truth." On the day of the hearing, my heart beat in my wrists. The notary, Mr. Lang, took the stand. "Were you open on this date?" Nora asked. "It was a holiday, but we often keep a clerk for emergencies," he said. Nora held up a copy of the Notary Association's published rota. No holiday staffing that month. His mouth tightened. "Why do 2 stamps show different times?" "Busy office," he said. "The register shows one entry at 11:05. Which stamp is false?" He shifted in the chair. "Must be a clerical error." The appraisal rep came next. Nora put both reports on the document camera. "These supposed 2 site visits include the exact same dust fleck in the same corner of the frame," she said. "Explain." "We use templates," he offered. "This is not a template," Nora said. "It is the same image with metadata stripped and dates changed." The judge asked the clerk to note indicia of report manipulation. You could feel the air change. We called Caleb. He produced the branch's staffing plan. The signature of the approving manager belonged to a day she was on leave. He explained simply how controls are supposed to work and how people circumvent them when they think no one is watching. The prosecutor stood. "We should hear from Mr. Evan Pierce." My son walked up, sweat blooming at his collar. "There was a POA," he said. "Dad agreed." "Did you complete documents he had not read?" Nora asked. "The business was drowning," he said. "Why did you transfer funds from his account to yours labeled management fee?" The consultant said to. "What's his name?" He moved. "I don't know where he is," the judge leaned forward. "Answer questions directly, Mr. Pierce." By afternoon, the judge granted our motion for a new trial, and then, on the merits, vacated my conviction. Nora squeezed my shoulder. "We keep going," she said. "Civil court for your losses. Criminal referral for theirs." The DA opened a fresh case, fraud and falsifying documents. The notary faced discipline. The consultant surfaced in a subpoenaed text thread Tessa had once sent. Short path for appraisals. Investigators found him. His statement tried to float on industry practice, but sank under dates and stamps that didn't exist. In civil court, we removed the lien on my house. The bank made me an offer. Operational error, they called it, and paid a large part of the damage. The remainder became a judgment against Evan and Tessa. The court froze what they had. Nora said, "This isn't revenge. This is balance." It still tasted like iron. One evening, Evan appeared on my camera doorbell and waited. I cracked the door with the chain on. "I'm sorry, Dad," he said. It was the first time I'd heard those words from him as a man. We were stupid. I listened to the wrong people. I was scared. I was scared too, I said. Fear doesn't erase debt. What should I do? Work, I said. Pay what you owe. And don't touch anyone's signature again. Tessa never called. Her lawyer answered letters with careful paragraphs ending in "without prejudice." Nora stayed. In her office one night I asked, 5 years, what does it take from a person? Trust, she said. But it gives you something you don't expect. Self-respect. You're here. You stood up when I looked out at the smear of city lights. I got my self-respect back, I said. Trust won't be wholesale again. My neighbor, Mrs. Whitaker, brought a casserole. Will you forgive him? She asked. Forgiveness is one thing, I said. Distance is another. Court is over. Inside me, the case is ongoing. I opened the prison notebook and added a line beneath those hard dates. Today I unlocked my door with my own key. No one asked me for a signature. The phone buzzed. Nora. Notary sanctioned. Appraisal firm dropped by the bank. Might make the papers, okay? Okay, I wrote back. I looked at my face in the window glass. Older, yes. But mine. Months later, the restitution checks arrived. I fixed the roof. I replaced the dead clock I'd left on the wall the day I went in. The criminal court delivered its sentence for Evan and Tessa. No suspended terms. Outside on the steps, Evan's eyes searched mine for something I didn't have to give. Build a life, I said. I will too. Walking home, my feet felt planted again. A kid's soccer ball rolled into my path. I tapped it back to him and he grinned. I thought, a signature isn't just ink. It's your word. I'm signing my name to my own life now. Sometimes I still wake to the slam of a metal door that's no longer there. I pour water, step onto the balcony. The city breathes. I think of Evan as a boy, sticky fingers and a toy truck, and understand that our history is an album we can't throw away. Some pages are torn. You don't have to frame them. You also don't have to pretend they never existed. Nora called one day. Elder Justice Forum at the university, she said. Will you speak? Me? Just tell them one line. That's enough. At the lectern, my hands didn't shake. I'm Walter Pierce, I said. I gave my son broad power of attorney and spent 5 years paying for that trust. 3 things I learned. Never sign blanks, silence helps abusers, and justice is slow, but it's thorough. My revenge happened in a clerk's stamp and a judge's order. Now I get on with living. A student asked, Did you forgive your son? Forgiveness isn't about the other person's behavior, I said. It's about the weight you carry. I'm not carrying his weight anymore. But I'm not leaving my door open either. The key stays with me afterward. Nora smiled. People come for a fist, she said. You gave them a pen. Pens open doors faster than fists, I said. That night, I wrote one final line in the notebook. Today, I signed something that belongs only to me, a promise to live. Then I signed, Walter Pierce. No blank spaces under it, no shadows above it. Just my name. On a cool summer evening, my old friend Alan stopped by. Think he'll come around again? He asked. Maybe, I said. If the doorbell rings, I'll check the peephole. Then I'll check my heart. If they disagree, I'll wait. Alan laughed. You used to rush. Rushing cost me 5 years, I said. Now I go slow and right. Some Sundays I walk by the river. A father counts change for an ice cream while his kid tugs his hand. I smile. Money, signatures, powers of attorney, they're tools. Before all of them, there's the person who has to live with what they sign. I learned that late, but I learned it. And with everything I've learned, I can say this without shaking. I took back my signature. I took back my name. I took back my home. I'm my own guarantor now, not for anyone else's loan, but for the weight of my word. I still keep the prison notebook in a drawer, not to relive it, but to remember. On the inside cover, I've taped 2 small things: the holiday calendar that proved the notary stamp was impossible, and a photo of me on my porch the day the lien was lifted, hand on the rail, sun in my eyes. When I think about revenge, I look at those and realize the only revenge that lasted was rebuilding what I almost signed away. A year after the ruling, Miss Patel invited me to speak to her branch staff at a training day. "We need to hear where we failed," she said. I told them about the blank initials, the after-hours filings, the rush to help a customer during recovery. I watched young tellers scribble notes. One raised her hand. "What should we do when family insists?" I said, "Ask the right question. Is the person in the room informed and unpressured? If not, you're not helping, you're participating." They gave me a gift card I didn't need. I used it to buy a leather cover for my notebook. Later that fall, Tessa's attorney emailed that she wanted to meet to apologize. Nora said, "Your call." I chose a coffee shop with glass walls. Tessa arrived looking smaller than I remembered. "I thought I could fix everything if we just got past the crisis," she said. I told myself the ends would justify the papers. I listened and let the words sit. "I can't give you forgiveness on a schedule," I said. "What I can do is not hate you every morning. That's the best I've got." She nodded. "It's more than I deserve," she said. "Thank you for saying it plain." By winter, I'd gotten used to quiet mornings. I started volunteering at the courthouse information desk on Fridays, showing people where to file forms, how to find the right window. Sometimes a son wheeled in his mother, and I felt the old ache. I'd nod hello, point them toward the clerk, and remind myself, other people's stories are theirs. Mine is here. New pages, clean margins. On the anniversary of my release, Nora, Caleb, and Ms. Patel met me for lunch. Caleb brought a cheap metal clock like the one in my cell. "For your workshop," he said. "Set it fast if you want to feel like you're stealing time back." We laughed. We ate cake. Nora tapped her fork against her glass. "To Walter," she said, "who learned the hard way and then taught the rest of us gently." That night, the city hummed. I stood at the window and thought of the first signature I ever made. Shaky, 5th grade, on a library card. I thought of the heaviest one, rushed, in a notary's office, before a surgeon marked my chest. Between those two were thousands of lines of ink. We think a signature is the end of a decision. It's the beginning. I know that now. If my doorbell rings one day and it's Evan with a job, a haircut, and a bank statement showing the latest payment, I'll open the door wide. If it's a story or a request, I'll leave the chain on. Boundaries aren't anger, they're architecture. Last week, a letter came from the state. Victims' Compensation Fund, payment approved. I stared at the check a long time. Then I endorsed it. Careful letters, full last name, and walked it to Ms. Patel's window. She smiled, stamped the deposit, and handed me the receipt. All set, Mr. Pierce. I put the slip in the notebook behind the promise to live. The pages are almost full. Good. That means I've been writing. When people ask what my revenge looked like, I tell them it wasn't a dramatic scene or a shouted speech. It was a stack of records, a competent lawyer, a patient judge, a friend who showed up with schedules, and a man who learned to read his own life before he signed on a line. It was slow. It was steady. And it held. I go slow and right now. That's not how the story started. It's how it ends, and how I keep it going.